You walk into a meeting room and, without thinking about it, you already know where to sit. Not because anyone told you. Not because there's a sign. You just know. The chair closest to the door isn't yours. The seat near the head of the table isn't yours either. Somewhere in your mind, a map already exists of who outranks who, and you're following it perfectly without ever being handed the instructions. Here's the strange part. A small, brightly colored fish living on coral reefs does the exact same thing. No meeting room, no job titles, no email chains. And yet it organizes itself into a strict, stable hierarchy that looks almost identical to the one running quietly through your office. For years, researchers who study reef ecosystems have been fascinated by a particular group of small fish that live in tight social groups on the reef, tucked into a single anemone or coral head. Only one female and one male breed. Beneath them, a strict line of smaller, subordinate fish weights, ranked from largest to smallest, each one exactly the right size to stay just below the fish above it and just above the fish below it. That ranking isn't random. It's precise. Researchers who study these groups have documented that each fish appears to actively regulate its own growth, staying just slightly smaller than the fish ranked above it. Not dramatically smaller, just enough. Enough to signal, unmistakably, I am not a threat to your position. Sound familiar? It should, because the same quiet calibration happens in your office, your friend group, your family gatherings. Nobody announces the hierarchy. Everybody still knows it. Here's the mechanism worth understanding. In that reef fish group, if the dominant female disappears, something remarkable happens. The largest male doesn't just claim her role. He physically changes. His body chemistry shifts. Within days, he begins behaving and eventually looks distinctly different, stepping into the breeding role once held by the fish above him. Meanwhile, every fish below him shifts up one rank, and each one subtly adjusts its own growth to match its new position in line. The system isn't held together by force. It's held together by size, signaling, and constant, quiet self-monitoring. Every fish is small enough to avoid a challenge from above, but large enough to hold its ground against whoever sits below it. Now think about the last time someone got promoted at your workplace. There is likely no formal announcement of exactly how everyone should now behave around them. And yet, within days, something shifted. People who used to interrupt them stopped. People who used to make the final call in meetings suddenly deferred. Nobody wrote a memo. Everyone still adjusted, almost instantly, the same way a reef fish quietly recalibrates its own size the moment the hierarchy above it changes. This is where it gets stranger. A separate line of research, this time for behavioral scientists studying primate groups, found something that maps almost perfectly onto what happens on the reef. In several primate societies, researchers observe that individuals don't just defer to whoever is physically strongest. They defer to whoever the group, as a whole, treats as dominant. Rank isn't a fixed physical fact. It's a shared social agreement, constantly being renegotiated through small, almost invisible signals. Eye contact held a beat too long, a slight shift in posture, who moves out of whose way first, which means dominance was never really about strength. It was about consensus. A hierarchy exists because enough individuals at the same time silently agree to act as though it exists. You felt this yourself, probably more times than you've noticed. Walking into a room and immediately sensing who holds the floor before a single word is spoken. Softening your voice around someone with more authority without deciding to. Straightening your posture the moment someone more senior walks past. None of that was trained into you through a seminar. It's older than seminars. It's older than office buildings. It might be older than language itself. Here's the part that should genuinely make you reconsider what a workplace personality even is. If hierarchy is really a size and signal system, constantly self-adjusting the way it does in a reef fish group, then a huge amount of what feels like your personal ambition or your personal humility might actually be your body running the same calibration script that fish are running underwater. Reaching for a promotion might feel like personal drive. But some portion of that drive might simply be your system sensing an open slot just above your current rank. The same way a reef fish senses an opening the moment the fish above it vanishes. And holding back, staying quiet in a meeting, letting someone else take the lead, might not always be personality. Sometimes it might be the same quiet signal a smaller fish sends by staying just slightly smaller. I see the rank above me, and I'm choosing not to challenge it, at least not yet. Let's go a layer deeper. Researchers who study organizational behavior in humans found a similar effect, happening in entirely artificial settings. Groups of strangers assigned randomly to teams with no prior history. Within minutes, without any instruction, a hierarchy would begin to form. Certain people would start speaking more, others would start speaking less, and the group would settle into a stable pattern that persisted for the rest of the session. A hierarchy built from nothing but a shared room and a shared task. That's the unsettling part. You don't need history, culture, or job titles to build a pecking order. You just need more than one individual sharing space, and enough time for the signals to start syncing. There's an obvious question underneath all of this. Why would any species, fish or human, bother building a hierarchy at all? Wouldn't it be simpler for everyone to compete equally all the time? The answer researchers keep landing on is exhaustion. A group where every single member fights for the top spot constantly would burn enormous amounts of energy on conflict that could otherwise go towards survival, feeding, reproduction, safety. A stable hierarchy, even an unequal one, reduces the number of fights that need to happen at all. Once the ranking is established and accepted, most potential conflicts get settled before they start, because everyone already knows, without asking, who would win. That's why the reef fish doesn't fight the fish above it every single day. That's why you don't renegotiate your position with your boss every morning. The hierarchy, once it settles, functions like a kind of energy-saving agreement. Everyone accepts a slightly worse position in exchange for not having to fight for a better one every day of their lives. This reframes something important about ambition and modesty both. Neither one is purely a character trait. Both are shaped, in part, by a very old system that is constantly asking one quiet question. Is there room for me to move up without a costly fight, or is it safer right now to hold my current position? Here's something that should feel oddly comforting. In the reef fish colony, when the hierarchy shifts, when a rank opens up, the fish that steps into it doesn't second-guess whether it deserves the spot. Its body simply recalibrates to fit the space that opened. There's no anxiety loop, no imposter syndrome, no internal debate about whether it's ready. It's ready because the position exists and its body responds to the position, not the other way around. Humans complicate this considerably, layering years of self-doubt, cultural expectation, and personal history on top of what might, underneath all of it, be the same basic calibration system. But the core mechanism is strikingly similar. Somewhere beneath the noise of your conscious mind, some part of you is running a very old, very efficient piece of software, constantly scanning the room, constantly measuring your size relative to everyone else's, constantly deciding, often before you're even aware of it, whether to grow into a gap or to hold steady exactly where you are. Think about the way you walked into that meeting room and simply knew, without hesitation, where you belonged. That knowledge didn't come from a rule book. It came from the same ancient machinery that tells a reef fish exactly how large it's allowed to become before it becomes a threat. You're not simply a personality moving through a workplace. You are also, quietly, a node in a very old kind of network, one that fish have been running for longer than office buildings have existed, one built entirely from size, signal, and the shared, unspoken agreement of everyone sharing the space with you. And maybe that's the real answer to how you knew exactly where to sit. You weren't guessing. You were measuring, the same way every creature in a hierarchy measures, quietly, constantly, long before you ever learned the word rank.